It's no secret, I love Star Wars. And do you know what I especially love other than the films, TV shows and various comics? It's the goddamn video games. As a kid, I remember playing Force Unleashed, running around as basically the most powerful Jedi to ever walk the galaxy, and being the founder of the rebellion playing as Starkiller. I mean, that was pretty hot shit. And then the second game came around and it sucked. Battlefront 2? No, not you. Yeah, that's the one. A game I had incredible fond memories of, and I think much of the online gaming experience owes a lot to this game. I remember playing it for hours in the Jedi Temple, just annihilating droids, playing against other people online, and I was completely taken aback by this experience. The gameplay was fun and enjoyable, and this game I truly believe set the groundwork for so many great shoot 'em ups which came after. Of course, there is a plethora of great Star Wars games, and not so great Star Wars games which have been released over the years. However, since Disney obtained the rights to Star Wars, the amount of video games released have been pretty scarce. And especially single player story driven games are the only notable releases since Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm, being Battlefront 1 and 2, Squadrons, and this video's focus, Jedi Fallen Order. Star Wars video games have had some very bad PR of late and have been wrapped up in controversy after Disney allowed an evil company to take the reins of this franchise and produce games which are designed to just milk people of as much money as they can.
What have I done?
You're fulfilling your destiny.
EA aren't exactly known for loving the craft of video games and design their games as cheap mobile games where you need to pay to win. You may have split with your hard-earned money for the game, but if you want the full experience, this is only the start. After Battlefront 2's highly controversial release, in which EA decided they may as well start children gambling early in their lives, EA needed to recover some goodwill with fans, and actually, to many people's surprise, EA managed to fix Battlefront 2, and today it is actually a fairly enjoyable game to play. The microtransactions are still part of the game, but are no longer part of a pay-to-play format. Whilst I still don't agree with microtransactions, at least these have been limited to simply cosmetic items. So when it came to the release of Jedi Fallen Order, I think the general opinion wasn't of excitement, just that EA hopefully wouldn't completely fuck it up, and this will be a passable game.
Don't.
Don't what?
Don't give me hope.
For me, I love Star Wars story games, as I love learning as much of the canon as possible. This is such a huge reason why I loved Force Awakens and the Old Republic. So much because I was just engrossed in the story, as well as being, very enjoyable games. So I was pretty excited for a single-player Star Wars game, especially as it had been so long since the last one was released. Although I was concerned given EA's track record of releasing Star Wars games, and to most it seemed Disney weren't overly concerned about using video games as a storytelling medium for Star Wars, something LucasArts prided themselves on doing. So without further ado, let's talk about Fallen Order. So first of all, what did I think? It's good, I think. So after playing Fallen Order, I still can't quite make up my mind about how I feel overall about this game. There are so many elements I love about it, and actually so many I hate. So let's start with the story, because this was the aspect that I wanted to judge the game mostly on. Picking up a few years after Revenge of the Sith, you play as Cal Kestis, a former Jedi Padawan who managed to escape the Jedi Purge and now works as a scrapper. After Cal saves his friend from a deadly fall by using the Force, he is discovered by the Inquisitors and goes on the run with former Jedi Knight Siri Jund, who has a mysterious past. The story revolves around you obtaining the MacGuffin of this story, a holocron, which will locate a number of Force-sensitive children around the galaxy, so the Jedi Order can be restarted. The story on the whole is pretty basic, but that is fine for a Star Wars story. However, the pacing is just all over the place. The first 2/3 of this game really struggle in progressing the story in any way, and to be honest, I wasn't engaged or paying attention at all to the story. because it went nowhere in explaining who Cal was or revealing anything about Ceri's mysterious past, where one of her former apprentices has now turned into an Inquisitor. It's pretty obvious Ciri would have betrayed her Padawan in some way, but her story isn't revealed until the final act, nor is any of Cal's backstory. Cal's escape from the Jedi Purge was probably the most important aspect of the character, and the player doesn't get told this aspect of the story until very near the end of the game. And when this part of the story played out, I found myself very engaged in the story and caring more about the character. Cal's master essentially sacrifices himself so Cal may live, and he in turn now blames himself for his death and is haunted by the event due to the massive amount of guilt he has and feels responsible for his master's death. The scene was excellent and really fleshed out the character of Cal. However, this aspect should have been told nearer the start of the game to get an understanding of who Cal is and what this story means to him in overcoming his demons and becoming a Jedi. The story mentions how Cal's connection to the Force has been broken, and if this aspect of the story was told earlier on, you could understand that more. Now it's kind of a meaningless point added in, which isn't fleshed out until pretty much the end of this game. The preceding parts of this game don't really progress the story, and you mostly go on a treasure hunt between planets before getting to the final act, in which the story is finally progressed. So whilst I like the story, the way it is told is rather bizarre. And on that note, let's look at the gameplay. If I'm completely honest, the gameplay of Fallen Order is nothing special. Whilst it's not bad, it isn't overly creative and is very simplistic, which some might see as a negative, but I actually do see as a positive. I prefer simplistic gameplay compared to highly intrinsic gameplay, where you continuously learn new skills and have to press R2, triangle, triangle, square, rotate 360, and a jumbo jet appears.
Classified.
Like I will go to jail for the rest of my life for showing you classified.
Yes! One quick piece of signal. Let me work my magic.
Throughout Fallen Order, controlling Cal is fun. His various force moves are simple and not overly complex. Fallen Order has natural progression of your character's powers, and it's easy to learn it, usually through a cutscene with your master who would have taught you this as a Padawan, and as your connection with the Force increases, you learn an additional power, whether it be pulling objects towards you, pushing them away, or running on walls. This makes it so much easier for the player to understand the new moves their character are learning and teaches you how to use these. I recently played Ghost of Tsushima, which is definitely a better game than this, but whenever my character learnt new moves, the game just gave me some text and basically said crack on with it. Instead, Fallen Order uses something creative by showing your master teach you these moves, and you can give them a little practice before you continue. Now, whilst the fighting mechanics were absolutely fine, and on the whole I enjoyed them, I didn't very much enjoy the mission style, focusing on I think a Lara Croft type of gameplay, where the game doesn't actually fully tell you the right direction you need to be heading in order to complete the main objective. You are mostly left to your own devices to find various crates and eventually complete the main objective, which is something I find incredibly frustrating. This was coupled with a lot of puzzle style missions where Cal will need to use various force techniques to unlock the next steps of the mission. This was especially frustrating on Zepho, one of the earlier missions where you basically become Tomb Raider, and I felt like quitting the game at this point as I loathe puzzle style games, and the game just basically stopped dead and was puzzle after puzzle. I'm playing as a Jedi, just let me be goddamn Jedi.
We're on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of Master.
What? How can you do this? This is outrageous. It's unfair. How can you be on the council and not be a master?
Fallen Order is kind of like Rise of Skywalker, a treasure hunt style storytelling which becomes quite boring when you realise the story isn't really moving, and the artifacts you are finding are actually having no effect on the overall story. The last third of this game, however, is fantastic. The story becomes action-packed and really starts to get moving, and we learn more about Cal and Ciri, and care more about these characters and become more emotionally invested. But that doesn't make up for the previous 6 hours of mind-numbing gameplay, where you barely progress the story. So I'm giving Fallen Order a bit of a kicking, and to be honest, it does deserve it. The last third is fantastic, and especially the last act cameo of Darth Vader is enthralling, and the fact that you can't beat Darth Vader and he just stomps you is brilliant, and reminded me of how great a character Vader is when used in this manner. His cameo is basically a repeat of his Rogue One cameo. Vader doesn't need to be integral to Star Wars stories now, but using him in this manner, where he's just throwing elbows and knees and chopping people down, is a great way to use him. And this cameo was almost enough to save the game for me. But for a story driven game, where you don't understand who the characters are you are playing with until the very final mission, is a really bad way of telling a story for a game like this. These characters could have been more fleshed out and 3-dimensional if we'd learnt more about them earlier on, but instead the game makes you do needless missions which do not progress the story, and it's only until the last few missions do you actually get anywhere with the game. Fallen Order is not as bad as I thought it would be with EA at the helm.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
And whilst it is an overall enjoyable experience, the story's not nearly fleshed out enough, and should have focused so much more on Cal and developed this character further. And I think he could have become a fan favourite. Overall, Fallen Order is a step in the right direction for single player Star Wars games. But just being a step in the right direction doesn't mean it's an excellent game. It could have been so much better, especially with the plethora of other superhero games that are about these days that have fantastic fight mechanics and great storytelling methods, such as the Batman Arkham games or even the new Spider-Man games. So after that, I'm going to give Fallen Order 6 out of 10. Thank you for watching.